The emperor had disguised himself for an incognito outing and formed a sworn brother-sister bond with me. He even asked whether I was already engaged or married. I replied shyly, saying only that the Shen family's heir possessed an elegant demeanor like an orchid or a jade tree. Li Zhen let out a loud laugh and gifted me a long dark green gown. He told me the heir loved the color green best. I changed into the new dress and happily went to meet the man. Who would have thought the heir would fly into a rage and declare that he never wanted to see me again in this lifetime? In my moment of utter despair, Li Zhen revealed his true identity and bestowed upon me the position of imperial consort. He treated me exceptionally well, willing to give me anything I desired. Yet at the same time, he wasn't good to me at all, because he always brought up the Shen heir. One spring, by the lakeside where willows were verdant, I merely glanced at them a moment longer, and he ordered his men to chop down every single one. He accused me of being fickle and insisted that I still couldn't forget the heir. Then he bestowed titles on a whole host of new consorts, including the daughter of the very enemy who had murdered my parents. Li Zhen doted on her without restraint, indulging her every whim. Even when she personally caused the death of my child, I could only suffer in endless grief and regret for the rest of my days. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the exact moment Li Zhen asked whether I already had someone in my heart. I pretended to be bashful and shyly admitted, "I admire you, elder brother. Would that count? In this life, all I wanted was to personally kill my enemies." Hearing my words, an irrepressible joy flashed across Li Zhen's face, though he tried hard to hide it. "I may possess vast wealth and fortune, but in the end I'm only the son of a merchant household. How could I ever compare to the noble ladies of the capital? Your elder brother holds a 5th-rank official post. Wanwan, have you truly thought this through? Do you really wish to stay by my side?" Li Zhen probed carefully, a flicker of eager hope hidden deep in his eyes. He had always been this way. As the emperor, he was born suspicious by nature and never truly believed any woman in his harem loved him with a sincere heart. That was why he wanted to imitate the heroes from storybooks, concealing his identity just to find someone who would love him for who he truly was. And so he had traveled in disguise, happened to meet me, and discovered we got along wonderfully. When it came time to part, he had his guards pretend to be beggars and deliberately humiliate me. Then he appeared like a hero saving the damsel in distress. Grateful for his life-saving grace, I suggested we become sworn siblings, addressing him as my elder brother. We spent the day sharing many stories from our pasts. He claimed to be the son of a merchant family in the capital, of lowly status and unloved by his siblings. I told him that although my own elder brother held a 5th-rank post, my parents had been framed and murdered years ago by the treacherous Su family. They accused my parents of only pretending to be upright officials, then hired assassins to kill them. Our household was draped in white mourning banners while the Su family threw a lavish banquet. Xingyan's, the Su family's eldest daughter, even arrived dressed in a bright red gown to offer condolences. She told me to my face that she had been the one to hire those mountain bandits. I went mad with rage and tried to kill her, but she put on a pitiful act. Outsiders simply assumed I had lost my mind from grief over my parents' deaths, and no one believed a word I said. Li Zhen listened with eyes full of pity. He promised that one day I would have justice. Yet in the end, he still betrayed me. The Su family's power reached the heavens. Even though Su Qingyan and I were both noble consorts, she enjoyed far greater favor. Because of my past admiration for young Master Shen, Li Zhen harbored endless suspicions and couldn't bring himself to harm me directly, so he vented his anger on my elder brother instead. My brother had only just married his childhood sweetheart when he was demoted and exiled to Hanzhou. The region was plagued by bandits and rebels. The moment he entered the city, he was beaten to death. There was surely the Su family's hand behind it. But Li Zhen refused to believe it, all because Su Qingyan was pregnant at the time, and he couldn't bear to upset her. As a result, my sister-in-law fell gravely ill from the shock and never recovered. She passed away in less than 3 months. The Su family once again hung red silk banners everywhere, an utterly mocking sight. I couldn't avenge my family, and even the child in my womb was killed by Su Qingyan. I bled out and died. Remembering that every hardship in this life stemmed from Li Zhen, I resolved to live again. I decided that even if it cost me my own life, I would personally kill my enemies Li Zhen, Su Qingyan, and the entire Su clan. Not a single one would escape. I buried my hatred deep in my heart and smiled gently. "Elder brother, I truly love you. Even if you were only a penniless street peddler or a beggar, I would still willingly marry you and remain your wife for the rest of my life, never betraying you." Li Zhen was overjoyed. The corners of his eyes reddened as he swore to heaven. Wanwan, I will absolutely never betray you either. The little boat drifted lazily across the lake. Through the window came the faint sound of scholars and beauties reciting poetry and playing music. I lifted my head and looked over. In the middle of the lake floated a magnificent pleasure barge, crowded with the sons and daughters of the capital's great clans. Standing at the very front was none other than Shen Qinghe, heir of the Shen family. Li Jun followed my gaze and grew slightly jealous. Everyone said young Master Shen Qinghe had an elegant bearing like an orchid or a jade tree. Had Wanwan once been moved by him? In my previous life I had merely uttered a single sentence praising the heir's graceful demeanor, and Li Jun remembered it for the rest of his days. Even after I became his consort and gave him my whole heart, he still refused to believe I truly loved him. One spring when the grass was lush and orioles sang, the rows of verdant willows beside the Tai pond in the palace were breathtakingly beautiful. I had merely glanced at them a moment longer. Li Jun flew into a thunderous rage. He ordered every willow chopped down and replaced with the peonies Su Qingyan loved most. Then he stormed into my chambers, ignored my struggles, dragged me to the bed and took me in broad daylight. He bit down hard on my neck, his voice vicious. I treat you so well. Brocade and gauze, pearls and jade, every tribute from the vassal states. I let you choose first. I made you my noble consort and even intended to name you my empress. I wished I could rip out my own heart and give it to you. But Luan, why can you never forget Shen Qinghe? In what way am I inferior to him? He went mad, tormenting me on the bed until I wished for death. My explanations fell on deaf ears. To him they were nothing but excuses. I suffered terribly. After that night, I developed a high fever and hovered between life and death. He grew frantic with worry, promising that once I recovered, he would indulge my every whim. When I said I wanted to return home to see my elder brother, he agreed, and allowed me to stay at the Lu residence for a full month. It was then that I discovered I was pregnant exactly 1 month along. I returned to the palace to tell him, but he showed no joy at all because of a single remark from Su Qingyan. I heard young Master Shen once visited the Lu residence. How coincidental that sister-in-law should become pregnant right after. Shen Qinghe had indeed visited the Lu residence, but only on official business. The two of us had never even met face to face. Yet Li Jun refused to believe me. He flew into a frenzy, smashing everything in my chambers to pieces. So later, when Su Qingyan personally killed my child, he didn't even get angry. I watched my life force draining away in a pool of crimson and begged him to summon the imperial physicians. Li Jun simply held me tight and smiled gently. Wanwan, be good. We cannot keep this child. We will have others later. The medicine Su Qingyan had given me was far too potent. Li Jun deliberately delayed calling for help. By the time he noticed something was wrong, I had already hemorrhaged severely and died from blood loss. The pain was unbearable, something I would never forget, not even if I were granted a second life. So I would take my revenge fiercely. It wasn't that I hadn't considered killing Li Jun outright, but that would have been too easy on him. Besides, I still had the entire Su clan to destroy. I would start from the beginning. Not one of them would escape. I pretended to pout and balled up my handkerchief, tossing it at him. You clearly know I love you. Why do you keep saying such things? Li Jun laughed heartily, carefully unfolded the handkerchief and pressed it to his nose, his gaze tender. It's my fault for upsetting my Wanwan. Seeing I still refused to smile, he added, Wanwan, don't be angry. Let me tell you some secrets about those noble young masters to cheer you up, all right? With that, Li Jun glanced toward Shen Qinghe not far away. Everyone said young Master Shen Qinghe possessed an elegant bearing like an orchid or a jade tree, yet no one knew that when he was young his mother had gone mad and hanged herself while wearing a green dress. For 3 full days he stayed beside her corpse without leaving her side, and nearly lost his mind as well. Ever since he could not bear the sight of anyone wearing green silk. After Li Jun finished speaking, he sighed with sympathy. He is truly a pitiful man. I was inwardly shocked beyond words. So even in my previous life, Li Jun had been scheming against me from the very beginning. He knew the heir feared the color green, yet he deliberately gave me a dark green gown. I changed into it and happily went to meet the man, provoking his rage and earning the declaration that he never wanted to see me again. I had once believed it was because I wasn't good enough that the heir disliked me. That innocent maiden's heart had been utterly shattered. But it turned out everything had been Li Jun's plot. He knew the heir feared green dresses yet still made me wear one, intending to cut off any hope I had so he could seize the opportunity to step in. I closed my eyes, feeling that the whole thing was laughably absurd. In my previous life I had been nothing more than a toy in his hands from beginning to end. Li Jun was truly a despicable scoundrel. After our boat ride, I returned to the Lu residence. My elder brother was trying on his wedding robes. His wedding was fast approaching. His bride was his childhood sweetheart. They had known each other since they were small and their affection had never wavered. Seeing me return, my brother's eyes brimmed with shy delight. Wanwan, come help your brother choose which sash goes best with this robe. I examined it carefully and selected a deep crimson jade belt for him, then hung the matching jade pendant they had exchanged as tokens of love. It looked perfect. My brother stood before the mirror, admiring himself again and again. Thoroughly pleased, he said. On the day of the wedding, your sister-in-law will surely be nervous. You must help her a lot, Wanwan. With our parents gone, we siblings can only rely on each other. A joyous occasion like a wedding required careful planning without elders to guide us. We had to handle everything ourselves so as not to slight the new bride. In my previous life, on the day of my brother's wedding, I had already entered the palace as a consort. Li Jun had promised to return with me to the Lu residence to preside over the ceremony. As the emperor, his presence would have brought unmatched glory to my brother. But that day in the palace, I had carelessly eaten one extra bite of crisp green vegetables. Li Jun overturned the entire table. I had prepared a feast of the finest delicacies, yet Su Qingyan refused to touch any of it and insisted on eating that green vegetable. What? Still unable to forget Shen Qinghe? That was the first time I ever argued with him. I told him he was being unreasonable. He accused me of not understanding the rules, daring to talk back to the emperor, and punished me for it. As a result, I missed my brother's wedding entirely. Only later did I learn that the Su family had caused all kinds of disgusting trouble that day. Knowing full well my brother was getting married, they claimed their treasured guard dog had been poisoned and insisted on holding a funeral for it. There were countless roads in the capital, yet they deliberately carried the dog's coffin straight into the path of the bridal sedan. Not only that, Su Qingyan and her wastrel younger brother Su Huaizhao arrived at the Lu residence dressed in full mourning white. The moment they entered, they began wailing loudly right in the middle of the wedding banquet, in front of all the guests. It would have been awkward to throw them out. Su Huaizhao even spoke obscenely. My sister-in-law is so beautiful, she really ought to be my concubine. On that wedding day, the entire Lu family suffered endless humiliation. The Su family's power was too great. No one dared speak up for us. Everyone simply watched coldly. Li Jun had intended to seek justice on my behalf, but because my brother and Shen Qinghe knew each other, my brother had sent him an invitation as well. Unfortunately, Shen Qinghe had been busy and couldn't attend. When Li Jun learned of it, he laughed coldly. Trying to climb high by associating with the powerful, sending an invitation even to young Master Shen. Why not ask him to stand up for you? Shen Qinghe, he mentioned that name more often than he mentioned me. So in this life, I absolutely refused to let my brother and sister-in-law suffer any humiliation on their wedding day. Perhaps to test my sincerity, Li Jun still did not reveal his identity this time. He continued visiting me as the son of a merchant household. I invited him to the wedding. My brother, grateful that he had once saved me, treated him as an honored guest. On the day of the wedding, Li Jun arrived as promised, but this time having learned from my previous life, I acted before the Su family could even carry their dog's coffin out the door. I ordered men with torches and oil to seal the Su family's main gate. The Su family was furious but could find no proof. They could only stand outside cursing wildly while frantically trying to extinguish the flames. After all, the plaque above their gate had been bestowed by the emperor himself. If it burned, it would be considered an insult to the throne, and the imperial censors would never stop submitting memorials accusing them. The bridal sedan entered the residence without incident. I calculated the timing and deliberately, accidentally spilled tea on Li Jun. My brother is getting married today, and I was so excited that my hand slipped. Fortunately, I have a set of clothes here that I made for you myself but hadn't yet given to you. Why don't you change into them now? I pretended to be shy and embarrassed. Li Jun was delighted beyond words, deeply moved. Wanwan, I never imagined you would make clothes for me with your own hands. I said nothing more, nor did I tell him that the robe had actually been bought from the family of a tenant farmer, whose son had died of illness while wearing it. Once he left, I continued watching the ceremony. Sure enough, everything unfolded exactly as in my previous life. Su Qingyan arrived dressed in full mourning white, leading her brother Su Huaizhao through the main gate. The moment they entered, they began wailing loudly, lamenting the tragic fate of their precious golden dog. The guests exchanged awkward glances. Even before the bereaved family caused trouble, everyone's expressions had already turned unpleasant. I smiled coldly and stepped forward. ordering servants to bring 2 mourning cushions and throw them in front of the pair. If you are truly so heartbroken, why not kowtow 3 times to Great Yellow, acknowledge him as your godfather, and offer incense and prayers to him every single day without fail? Su Qingyan's face turned ugly in an instant. Luan, you dare make me acknowledge a dog as my godfather? Are you trying to make me look foolish? I smiled gently, neither angry nor upset, looking for all the world like a kind-hearted person thinking only of her well-being. The guests could clearly see something was off. If they were truly grieving, they should have mourned at home, instead of coming here to bring bad luck, and the contempt they showed for the dog only made it worse. In the end, it was obvious they had come simply to ruin my brother's wedding. Seeing this, Su Huaizao immediately put on his usual playboy act. He wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, leaned in close to me with a lecherous grin and said, "Miss Lu is so beautiful and still unmarried. Why not become my concubine?" With that, he reached out to touch my face. I stood perfectly still because Li Jin, guided by a maid, had just finished changing in the side room and was returning. The moment he saw the scene, he flew into a towering rage. Just as Su Huizhao's hand was about to touch my face, Li Jin lunged forward. The guards at the gate today were all armed with long blades. Li Jin snatched a blade and slashed down on the man's arm. A blood-curdling scream rang out endlessly. Su Huizhao collapsed to the ground, clutching his bleeding arm and howling in agony. His pain was nothing compared to what my parents had suffered when those mountain bandits ruthlessly took their lives. I turned to look at my brother. Tears glistened in his eyes. No matter what, on his wedding day the son of his enemy had lost an arm. This blood was an auspicious omen, a blessing, the greatest fortune. Su Qingyan stared at the severed arm on the ground and shrieked, "Who are you? You dare injure my brother? I will definitely tell my father and elder brother to take your life." I put on a pitiful, terrified expression and stepped protectively in front of Li Jin, trembling. He was only protecting me. "If you truly want to take a life, then take mine instead." Li Jin was deeply moved. "Very well. Then I shall kill you." Su Qingyan's father held 2nd rank office and her elder brother 4th rank. The entire family were high officials, which was why she dared behave so arrogantly. She picked up the bloody blade from the ground and swung it straight at me. "How dare you!" Li Jin's face turned icy as he roared. Hidden guards emerged from every direction and swiftly surrounded the entire Lu residence. Who are you?" Su Qingyan's voice trembled. But the imperial guards at his waist all wore dragonfish jade pendants, impossible to counterfeit. After a brief moment of shock, every guest in the residence dropped to their knees and shouted, "Long live the emperor!" Li Jin stared coldly at Su Huizhao, who was still writhing in pain on the ground. The Su family's 2nd son, Su Huizhao, dared to molest an imperial consort. "Today I have cut off one of his arms as a warning." Then he turned and gently helped me up. "Wan, don't be afraid. From now on I will protect you forever." I pretended to be heartbroken, my eyes slightly red, but the man I wanted to marry was Li Jin, the son of a wealthy merchant. He had lost his mother young and was unloved by his siblings. My heart ached for him. I had decided in this life to cherish him forever, yet he turned out to be the emperor, and my small wish suddenly felt ridiculous. Li Jin had wanted to find someone who would truly love him. If I had happily accepted, he would have grown suspicious and assumed I was greedy for status. So I told him everything about his lonely childhood. I pitied him. I felt sorry for him. Because he was Li Jin, the man in my heart. Li Jin was deeply moved. His eyes reddened as he pulled me tenderly into his arms. "Heaven has truly pitied me by giving me Wan in this life," Li Jin added. "I will never betray you. Come back to the palace with me and I will make you my consort. Will that be all right?" But before I could answer, Su Qingyan's still kneeling spoke up unwillingly. "Luan is merely the younger sister of a 5th rank official. She is unskilled in any of the 4 arts. On what basis does she deserve to become an imperial consort?" I said nothing in reply, only leaned against his chest and shed silent tears. Li Jin's heart ached. He immediately rebuked Su Qingyan. "I love her and wish to make her my consort. Do you have any objections?" I said softly. "Perhaps Sister Su feels she herself is more worthy of the position?" Li Jin laughed coldly and issued another decree. "The eldest daughter of the Su family, Su Qingyan, has dared to behave disrespectfully before the emperor. She is sentenced to enter the palace as a palace slave. The emperor's imperial edict could not be altered." Su Qingyan's face drained of all color. Her eyes rolled back and she fainted on the spot. Su Qi received the news and rushed over, his hair already streaked with white. He no longer possessed the vigor he had shown when he murdered my parents years ago. I had expected him to beg for mercy on Su Qingyan's behalf, but he did no such thing. Instead, he kowtowed heavily 3 times. My daughter has erred and deserves to be punished by entering the palace to serve your majesty's wise rule. I immediately understood. The old fox was planning something bigger. Su Qingyan was beautiful and skilled at manipulation. In my previous life she had gained the emperor's favor the moment she entered the palace, bringing glory to her entire family. The old fox was clearly thinking the same this time. No matter how angry Li Zhen was now, the anger would eventually fade. When that happened, young and beautiful Su Qingyan would surely find a way to rise again. I pretended not to see through Su Qi's scheme and casually added, Sister Su has been pampered since childhood. Tasks like washing, cleaning, and sweeping would surely be hard on her. Since I am about to enter the palace as a consort, why not let her serve as my personal palace maid? That way she won't have to suffer so much. I deliberately put on a kind and understanding expression. Li Zhen naturally agreed to everything. Wanwan is truly kind-hearted. He looked at Su Qi. In that case, let your daughter attend her. Su Qi opened his mouth but ultimately said nothing. The blood feud between our families was unknown to outsiders. They only knew that Su Qingyan and I did not get along and assumed I was arrogant and overbearing. Now that I was showing such understanding, Su Qi had no reason to refuse. He looked worried but could only kowtow again, thanking both Li Zhen and me. It felt incredibly satisfying. The moment I entered the palace, I began tormenting Su Qingyan without delay. She and the Su family had murdered my parents, a blood debt that could never be repaid. Now that she was in my hands, I naturally showed no mercy and humiliated her thoroughly. Whenever Li Zhen was absent, I forced her to do every heavy, filthy task. She had once been a delicate, beautiful young lady. In less than 10 days, her face had grown rough and haggard, and her whole body had become painfully thin. This time I punished her by making her kneel under the scorching sun. She glared at me furiously. Luwan, one day I will make sure you die without a grave. I fanned myself lightly with a round fan and smiled coldly, ordering the palace maids. Su Qingyan has spoken disrespectfully to this palace. Make her kneel for 3 more hours and slap her mouth twice. I never bothered hiding the fact that I was tormenting Su Qingyan. I even allowed her to smuggle letters out of the palace to inform her parents and brothers. As the Su family's only legitimate daughter, she was cherished like the brightest pearl. When they learned she was being abused in the palace, they were naturally furious and redoubled their efforts to find any fault of mine. The fact that I had set fire to their main gate had not been covered up perfectly. They quickly traced it back to me and submitted memorials to Li Zhen accusing me of heinous crimes and showing contempt for imperial grace. When Li Zhen came to find me, I was already sitting on the bed crying first. Wanwan, what's wrong? I wiped my tears, leaned into his arms, and gripped his hand tightly. I just took a nap and had a nightmare. What did you dream about? He asked. I dreamed of my Li Zhen as a child motherless, unloved by his father, constantly schemed against by his half-siblings of different mothers. I blinked and 2 lines of tears fell. Seeing that scene in my dream, my heart ached so badly I wanted only to embrace little Li Zhen and tell him, you still have me. Li Zhen's mother had been titled Consort Mei, but she was framed by the mother of Prince Su, the noble consort at the time, and died together with her unborn child. After losing his mother's protection, Li Zhen's life had been extremely difficult. Had he not gradually shown talent and won the late emperor's favor, he would have continued to be bullied by Prince Su. The person he hated most in this life was Prince Su and his mother. When the late emperor passed, Li Zhen used the excuse that the emperor was lonely, and sent poisoned wine to accompany the noble consort to the afterlife. Prince Su was also imprisoned in his mansion on various pretexts. In my previous life, a few months later, Prince Su's had been executed by the most brutal methods, his bones ground to dust. He hated Li Zhen to the marrow of his bones. I used the deepest pain in Li Zhen's heart as an excuse and played the role of a devoted wife who ached for her husband even in her dreams. How could Li Zhen not feel tender pity? What I wanted was exactly that pity and indulgence from him. A small mistake like mine hardly warranted severe punishment. Li Zhen's eyes also reddened. His gaze softened as he gently stroked my cheek. Wanwan, it has been so long since anyone spoke such understanding words to me. I smiled without answering. If he likes hearing such things, I can say cartloads of them. I thought to myself. After all, it costs me nothing but some sweet talk merely coaxing a fool. I continued crying. If my parents were still alive, they would surely ache for you the way I do. But they are gone. My brother and I have only had each other since we were small. I only wanted my brother's wedding to go smoothly. It was my fault for acting too ruthlessly. It was my fault. If your majesty wishes to punish me, then strip me of my position and let me become a palace maid as well. Using retreat as advance, Li Zhen immediately hugged me tight. Wanwan, how could I bear to punish you? It was them who were wrong. They must have bribed beggars on the street to fabricate false accusations against you. The plaque I bestowed upon them, they failed to protect it properly. That was their crime. I will punish the entire Sioux clan by demoting every member by 1 rank. As for your elder brother who has protected you all these years, a 5th rank post is truly too lowly for him. Now that you are in the inner palace and vulnerable, if you do not have your maternal family support, the other women will devour you until not even bones remain. Today I will issue a decree promoting your elder brother. The power of the imperial family was intoxicating. With just a few words, the Sioux family once as dazzling as the noonday sun was demoted, while my elder brother was effortlessly raised to 4th rank. Such beautiful power. If it ever fell into my hands one day, that would truly bring joy. The emperor issued the decree. The Sioux family was demoted. My elder brother was promoted. Inside and outside the court, everyone was stunned. At that very moment, a great drought struck. The capital had gone several months without a single drop of rain. No one knew who started the rumor, but I guessed it was surely connected to the Sioux family. Word spread through the capital. I am a treacherous consort who brings calamity to the state. The emperor's doting on me is destroying the nation's fortune. This great drought was heaven's warning. The mouths of the people were terrifying. Enough gossip could destroy bones and melt flesh. A few words were enough to ruin my reputation and future. Not only did the court officials pressure him, even the common citizens of the capital knelt en masse before the palace gates begging Li Jin to deal with me. At that time I had already shut myself inside my chambers for several days. When Li Jin went to morning court, I sent word that I had fainted in my chambers. Since I had only recently gained favor, he was frantic with worry and rushed to see me. I woke up just as he arrived. A quick-witted palace maid immediately knelt and sobbed, "Your Majesty, Her Highness is truly pitiful." When she learned the capital was suffering from drought and the people were in misery, she sold all her own gold, silver, and jewelry to buy grain for the disaster victims. She prays and burns incense every day, and she even cuts her own arm to draw blood each day, making blood vows to heaven in sincere hope that rain will fall. Please do not speak further. I hurriedly cut her off, but my frail body caused me to cough violently. Li Jin's heart ached. He pulled me into his arms. He rolled up my sleeve and saw the countless cuts on my arm, his face filled with horror. "Wanwan, how could you be so foolish?" His voice choked as he held me even tighter. "This realm belongs to your Majesty. The common people are your Majesty's children. When they suffer, you worry day and night. I am only a weak woman with no great abilities. I only hope my husband can be at peace and cannot bear to watch you wrinkle your brow with worry." I weakly raised my arm and smoothed the crease between his brows for him. "If heaven takes pity, it will surely send a great rain." I spoke slowly. The very next second, thunder and lightning cracked outside the window. A fierce wind rose, and rain poured down like a waterfall. Li Jin helped me to the doorway. I looked at the downpour with boundless joy. "Your Majesty, heaven has truly heard my prayers." Then I fainted again. When I woke, Hong Tu reported, "You have been bestowed the title of noble consort and given authority to manage the 6 palaces on behalf of the emperor. His Majesty said that because you cut your own flesh and prayed for rain on behalf of the people, you moved heaven itself. Today's sweet rain is the proof. You are a blessing to the dynasty, a star of fortune, not the treacherous consort those people claim." He wanted to clear your name and therefore named you noble consort. Once the news spread, neither the court officials nor the citizens of the capital dared utter a single bad word about you again. My chambers were full of palace maids and eunuchs. Quite a few were spies planted by other palaces. No matter how unwilling they were to believe it, heaven really had sent rain the moment I finished speaking. There was no doubt Li Jin had faked nothing. I had my previous life's memories to thank for knowing the exact moment the first rain would fall after the drought. After being named noble consort, Li Jin treated me even better than before. Whether gold, silver, pearls, jade, or any tribute from the vassal states, he always let me choose first. I naturally continued to act modest and made one small request. "Your Majesty, we met outside the palace. Though the inner palace is fine, it still lacks freedom. I truly miss the time before, when I was still the young miss of the Liu family, and you were the son of a wealthy merchant in the capital. How carefree we were, boating on the lake together." The emperor was suspicious by nature, so Li Jin greatly cherished that period as well. He took my hand, his eyes full of tender affection. "Wanwan, shall I take you out of the palace for a day of fun?" I was naturally overjoyed. Around this time in my previous life, the dissolute Su Huaijiao had brazenly abducted a commoner girl and dragged her back to his residence. The girl, covered in wounds, had escaped and collapsed in the street, weeping and telling her story. The entire capital buzzed with outrage. The Su family then brutally murdered her to silence her. Su Huizhao had even claimed she was framing him. As his longtime enemy, I knew this wastrel young master better than anyone. Relying on his father and brother's high positions, he had always done whatever he pleased. Kidnapping a common girl was nothing to him. He would normally have boasted about it instead of denying everything, so the whole affair felt suspicious. I ordered people to investigate the girl's background and learned she had an older sister who, while pregnant, had been abducted by Su Huizhao. In the end, both mother and child had been left to die in the wilderness. The girl had wanted revenge for her sister but was too weak. Even sacrificing her own life had only bought a few days of gossip in the capital. So in this life I found the girl first. When we met she was still full of wariness. I simply said one sentence: I have a blood feud with the Su family. Her eyes immediately reddened and she dropped to her knees. Noble lady, please help me take revenge. My methods this time were almost identical to the previous life. Only now the girl, named Linglong, encountered him in a tavern. Su Huizhao, full of filthy thoughts, had lost one arm, but once he could get out of bed he still went out seeking pleasure. He drank heavily until he was drunk and hazy. Linglong and 2 other women I had arranged slipped out of the tavern at noon. Su Huizhao, thoroughly intoxicated, thought she was seducing him, and chased after her with his clothes disheveled. Li Zhen and I happened to be passing by at that exact moment. The moment Linglong saw me she burst into loud sobs. Cousin, I came to the capital hoping to rely on you. Who knew the moment I arrived this young master would force me to drink and try to make me his concubine? Cousin, save me. My mother had many siblings. I naturally had quite a few cousins who occasionally came to the capital seeking shelter. No one would investigate too deeply. I immediately hugged Linglong, my own eyes reddening. Little sister, you have suffered. Li Zhen had once promised to protect me forever. Seeing this, he immediately declared, Wanwan, don't worry, I will never let you or your cousin suffer any injustice. Today I will definitely teach this scoundrel a lesson. The moment he finished speaking, Su Huizhao, clothes in disarray, staggered out. He had drunk far too much and could not recognize anyone clearly. I deliberately shielded Linglong behind me, so he lunged straight at me. I let myself fall to the ground and scraped my hand until it bled. Wanwan, Li Zhen cried out in alarm. He helped me up at once and slapped Su Huizhao hard. Who wants to die, daring to strike this young master? He cursed, then hiccuped. The smell of alcohol sprayed across Li Zhen's face. Li Zhen was the emperor who held real power. Su Huizhao already had a record of molesting me. Today he had done it again, injured me, and even collided with Li Zhen, repeated provocations that far exceeded the simple crime of abducting a common girl in the street. Li Zhen's fury erupted. Su Huizhao molested a respectable woman in broad daylight, repeatedly offended the noble consort and myself. Today I will punish him severely. At his command, hidden guards appeared, seized Su Huizhao, and threw him into prison. Abducting a common girl, molesting a noble consort, offending the emperor, and committing repeated offenses, his crimes against the imperial dignity meant that even if the emperor ordered his execution, the court officials would raise no objections. The Su family had to run around desperately. Su Qingyan, who was serving as a palace maid in my chambers, was the first to come begging. She and Su Huizhao were twins and had been extremely close since childhood. Knowing he was about to be beheaded, she finally cast aside all pride and knelt before me. Luan, I know you hate me and the Su family, but you are now noble consort, favored beyond measure. Your elder brother has reached 4th rank and lives in glory. Even if the Su family wronged you in the past, many years have passed. Can't you show a little mercy and stop making things difficult for my family? My brother may have erred, but his crime does not deserve death. It must have been that vixen who seduced him. Luan, consider this my plea, spare my brother, won't you? Even while begging, she still carried herself with such arrogance. It was truly revolting. Wanting to save her brother, I laughed coldly. Then kneel and kowtow to me 3 times. Humiliation filled Su Qingyan's eyes, but she did it. I burst out laughing. I was only joking. Even if you kowtowed until your skull cracked, I would still take his life. Luan, you have truly lost all humanity. She cursed me loudly. I, however, was in a generous mood and did not bother arguing. I simply yawned lazily and let her rant. Your brother simply had terrible luck and happened to run into this palace. Naturally, I will send him to the afterlife. Who told His Majesty to favor me so much? I ordered the palace maid beside me. This palace is tired and wishes to rest. If His Majesty arrives, let him rest for now in the eastern wing. There is chicken soup there that I personally simmered for him. With that I turned and entered the inner chamber. Behind me, Su Qingyan's eyes flickered with calculation after hearing my words. I knew she would never pass up such an opportunity. Sure enough, Su Qingyan did not disappoint me. The Su family's great enterprise meant that even after being demoted to a palace maid, she still carried quite a bit of silver. As the old saying goes, with money, you can even make ghosts turn the millstone. It only cost her a little extra silver to move freely through the eastern wing. She had originally wanted to win the emperor's favor, so when she first entered the palace she had brought some aphrodisiac powder. I had turned a blind eye to it. Now it came in handy. I slept soundly through the night. The next morning I carried a bowl of chicken soup from the small kitchen to see Li Zhen. "Your Majesty, I simmered chicken soup for you with my own hands." Before I could finish speaking, I saw the two of them embracing on the bed. My hands trembled and the bowl and chopsticks crashed to the floor, shattering. I had deliberately chosen that particular set of dishware. The sound it made when breaking was crisp and clear. Li Zhen woke with a start. He opened his eyes, saw me, and looked momentarily dazed. The moment he realized he was holding a woman in his arms, he leaped up. "Wan, listen to me." Su Qingyan had also woken. She wrapped her legs around him with a bashful expression. "Your Majesty, last night you..." Li Zhen panicked. He grabbed his outer robe, wrapped it around himself, jumped off the bed and rushed to my side. "Wan, I absolutely did not intend to betray you." He knew I hated anyone from the Su family, yet he had slept with Su Qingyan right in my own chambers. It was a slap straight to my face. I lowered my eyes and shed silent tears. Li Zhen's heart ached unbearably. Wan, it's my fault. Punish me however you wish." I immediately knelt. "Your Majesty, please allow me to return home to visit my family for 1 month." This was the moment he felt the most guilty. He could not possibly refuse. I stayed at the Lu residence for over a month. My brother was happy, my sister-in-law caring, and the whole family lived in harmony. Li Zhen came to see me several times, but I refused to meet him. He showered me with countless gifts of gold, silver, jade, and brocade, but I accepted none. So he promoted my elder brother again, and bestowed a title on my sister-in-law. At the same time, Hong Tu discovered the powder in Su Qingyan's room. The imperial physicians examined it and confirmed it was an aphrodisiac meant to incite passion between men and women. If Li Zhen had previously favored her, the Su family might have used the incident to beg him to name Su Qingyan a consort and simultaneously plead for Su Huijiao's life. But now this packet of powder served as ironclad evidence of malicious intent. Li Zhen felt even more guilty toward me. Su Huijiao could not be spared. My elder brother personally volunteered to oversee the execution. Li Zhen agreed, and I finally obtained what I wanted. When Li Zhen came again to win my favor, I returned to the palace. His eyes were full of remorse. "Punish Su Qingyan however you wish." I only shook my head lightly. "Just let her continue serving as a palace maid in my chambers." Li Zhen's heart ached. Wan, how can you be so kind-hearted?" I said nothing more, only waited quietly for the day Su Huizao would be beheaded. But he was after all the youngest son, pampered since childhood. Su Qi was old and frail. In the end he came begging before the imperial study, kneeling under the scorching sun for a long time without rising. Seeing him look so much older in just a few days brought me immense satisfaction. So I used the excuse of bringing soup to Li Zhen and went to watch the old man kneel for his son. "Lord Su, you are advanced in years, do not collapse here." He caught the mockery in my words and laughed coldly. "Sooner or later you too will be skinned and have your bones picked clean, dying without a grave." Even now he still had the energy to curse me. The key was that he had not knelt long enough. He did not realize that provoking me further would only make his son's death more painful. After all, the executioner's blade could be sharp or dull. If it was sharp, at least death would be quick and painless. If it was dull, one stroke would not kill him. There would be a second, a third, until the pain itself killed him. How wonderful. My parents had suffered countless cuts like that. It was only right that someone else should taste the same. I curved my lips into a smile, leaned close to his ear, and spoke in a voice only the two of us could hear. "After your son dies, shall I have someone dig up his corpse and completely destroy his remains for you to see?" I watched his face turn deathly pale little by little, and felt even more exhilarated. "Or shall I tell the executioner to dull the blade a bit so he lives a little longer? It will only hurt more. Guess whether he will die from the pain?" Su Qi's eyes bulged. He pointed at me and cursed loudly, but before he could finish a sentence, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. What a pity! My newly changed dress was ruined again. Hearing the commotion, Li Zhen came out. I immediately put on an innocent expression. "Your Majesty, I only wanted to comfort Lord Su with a few words." With that my eyes rolled back and I fainted. Li Zhen no longer had the mind to care about anything else. He rushed over to hold me and urgently called for the imperial physicians. As for Su Qi, the old man had been provoked by me until he coughed up blood. My heart sang with joy. When I woke, only the palace maid Hong Tu was guarding me. She reported that Lord Su had died provoked to death by me. If my parents knew, they would surely be overjoyed. I had no idea whether my elder brother and sister-in-law outside the palace would immediately set off firecrackers in celebration when they heard the news. It's fine, I will light them myself. Hong Tu looked worried. Because of Lord Su's death, the younger Lord Su has led many civil and military officials to kneel before the imperial study, demanding that your majesty punish you. Why should you be punished? It's truly strange. Hong Tu sighed. My lady, under everyone's eyes, it was clearly you who provoked Lord Su until he died. I shook my head. This palace only comforted him with a few words. It was his body that was too weak and the kneeling that went on too long that caused him to cough blood and die. How can the blame fall on this palace? They truly do not understand reason. So I went personally to the imperial study. Looking at the officials kneeling shoulder to shoulder outside the door, the leader was Su Huaiyan, the younger Lord Su Hong Tu had mentioned. He glared at me furiously, as if he wished to tear me apart with his eyes. Lu Wan, you vicious woman killed my father and still have the nerve to claim you were comforting him. I smiled innocently. Younger Lord Su, what you say is unreasonable. This palace was worried about His Majesty, exhausting himself with state affairs for many days, so I personally simmered chicken soup and brought it. I happened to see Lord Su kneeling to beg for his son's life, so I opened my mouth to offer a few comforting words. Yet he did not appreciate kindness and, just like you, called me a vicious woman. I had not even asked His Majesty to punish him, yet he collapsed from the summer heat and coughed blood until he died. I paused, then sighed softly, looking utterly helpless. This palace is the one who has been most wronged. Su Huaiyan trembled with rage, but before he could speak, Li Zhen emerged and shielded me behind him. Wan, why aren't you resting in your chambers? I pretended to feel wronged. I heard the younger Lord Su and the other great ministers have joined together to accuse me. I could not remain silent. I had to come and defend myself. Otherwise, the rumor would spread and it would become my fault again. When I had spoken with Su Qi, I had deliberately lowered my voice so no one else could hear. Even Li Zhen had no evidence to suspect me, let alone Su Huaiyan. He laughed coldly. Even if the noble consort spoke no malicious words, why was the timing so perfect? The moment my father coughed blood and fainted, you also fainted, causing every imperial physician to rush to your chambers. No one was left to treat my father. In that case, this official has been even more wronged. I looked pitifully at Li Zhen. Your Majesty, this subject's body has been frail. I have been pregnant for less than 2 months. The imperial physician said my fainting was due to weakness. Must even this be blamed on me? What? You are pregnant? Li Zhen's face lit up with joy. After all, this was his first child. Su Huaiyan, kneeling not far away, closed his eyes in despair the moment he heard. Because he knew that as long as I was pregnant, the accusation of provoking his father's death could no longer be used against me. I would only grow more glorious. I simply needed to say I feared the execution would clash with the child in my womb. Li Zhen immediately decreed that Su Huijiao's execution be carried out earlier to avoid any misfortune when I gave birth the following autumn. My elder brother personally oversaw the execution and ordered the executioner to use a dull blade on Su Huijiao. The blade truly was too blunt. It took several strokes, yet half the bone still remained attached. Su Huijiao screamed in agony. He was tortured to death by pain, yet in the end his head still had to be severed according to the rules. For the rest of his life and beyond, he would be a headless ghost. Outside the execution ground, Su Huaiyan wept beautifully. The Su family now had 2 funerals, one right after the other, and they even had me to thank for combining them into a single event. But I was pregnant and had trouble sleeping at night. A eunuch said, Her Highness's body is frail. The entire inner and outer palace should be filled with joyous energy so that Her Highness may safely carry the child. Li Zhen immediately ordered lanterns hung everywhere. Red silk draped across every beam, and the whole palace filled with celebratory atmosphere. Not only that, every major street and alley in the capital was commanded to hang lanterns and flowers. Everywhere was feasting and rejoicing. The entire city overflowed with auspicious delight. This time the roles were finally reversed. Her house was filled with weeping, while mine was draped in red silk. I personally lit a string of giant firecrackers. If my parents' spirits in heaven were watching, seeing their enemies die one by one, they would surely feel proud of their daughter. When Su Qingyan learned of it, she ignored everything and rushed to my face. Luan, how can you be so ruthless? Are you even human? I found it amusing. Didn't your family treat mine the exact same way back then? Su Qingyan was speechless. She opened her mouth to say something, then began crying and shaking her head. But that was in the past. Why can't you let it go? In the past, I laughed. That's easy for you to say because the ones who died were my family. That's why you can let it go, but I will never be able to let it go in this lifetime. Not only that, after the Su father and son were buried, I sent word to my elder brother telling him to dig up the graves and whip the corpses twice. Even if someone discovered it, so what? At worst it would be blamed on grave robbers who saw two newly built luxurious tombs and wanted to steal a few treasures. Su family, keep crying. I love hearing it. Even if Su Huaiyan was a fool, he had finally realized I was deliberately targeting the Su clan. Our two families had feuded for many years. They had hired assassins to murder my parents, leaving me to grow up relying only on my elder brother. Their household had been filled with laughter and harmony among siblings. My household had been shrouded in grief and endless weeping. Now the situation was simply reversed. Why couldn't they endure it? Su Huaiyan sent word that he wished to meet me, but a minister and a consort could not meet privately. It's fine, there will always be a way. He requested an audience with the emperor. I requested an audience as well, and brought a newly made set of clothes, telling him to change quickly inside the cool pavilion in the imperial garden. In the end, only Su Huaiyan and I remained. Palace servants stood guard at a distance. With them present, no rumors about the two of us would spread and we could speak freely. Noble consort Lu, what will it take for you to spare my family? Hearing those words, I laughed. Spare you? Did your family ever spare my parents back then? Su Huaiyan fell silent for a long moment. That matter happened many years ago. Must you keep it in your heart forever and never let it pass? He truly sounded just like his sister. The suffering of my family should be forgotten? On what basis? The hatred in my eyes was unconcealed. Su Huaiyan closed his eyes. After a long time he spoke. Noble consort, what will it take for you to spare my sister? Truly devoted siblings. I had long known the Su siblings were deeply attached to one another. I truly wanted to see how far he would go for Su Qingyan. I can choose not to kill your sister. I can even ask His Majesty to name her a consort. But I want your life. I want you to die as miserably as my parents did back then. Can you do it? In that massacre my parents had been hacked to pieces by the mountain bandits. They hired a blood debt that would be repaid sooner or later. Su Huaiyan remained silent for a while, then asked only one question. How can I trust you? I immediately swore an oath to heaven. I swear on my elder brother's life. If after your death I kill your sister, then may my elder brother die without a proper burial. He knew how important my elder brother was, to me just as his own siblings were to him. Blood ties ran deep. With such a vicious oath he could not help but believe it, nor did he dare disbelieve. Besides, I was willing to take a step back first. Li Zhen finished changing into the clothes I had brought and returned. I smiled and walked to his side, speaking gently. Although Sister Su has done wrong, she is still a young girl after all, and she once enjoyed your Majesty's favor. It would not be good to let her remain an anonymous palace maid for the rest of her life. Your Majesty, please show mercy and bestow a title upon her, won't you? Li Zhen's gaze toward me grew even softer. Wanwan, why are you always so kind-hearted? She schemed against you and even tried to destroy the affection between us. You not only refuse to let me punish her, you even plead for a title on her behalf? I smiled gently. Consider it accumulating blessings for the child in my womb, all right? Li Zhen lowered his eyes and agreed. I could not help glancing at Su Huaiyan beside me. He was looking at me as well. After a long while he rose and saluted both Li Zhen and me. This subject takes his leave. May your Majesty enjoy 10,000 years of life. May the noble consort enjoy good health and all wishes fulfilled. I understood. Su Huaiyan had agreed to the deal. He was willing to die, he knew. He knew how deeply I hated the Su family. The more miserably he died, the happier I would be and the more easily I would spare Su Qingyan. So when the news arrived that the younger Lord Su had gone to offer incense at a temple outside the city and been captured by mountain bandits nearby and met a gruesome end, I was truly ecstatic. Father, mother, another enemy has gone to the underworld to kowtow and apologize to you. Su Qingyan still did not know. She had just been named a beauty and because of that night was pregnant with the imperial heir. She was basking in glory. I went to her palace. Su Qingyan was sitting before the mirror combing her hair, waiting for Li Zhen to arrive. Seeing me, her eyes filled with dissatisfaction. Noble consort, what rare wind brings you to this humble one's chambers today? I had the servants set the chicken soup on the table, then smiled at her. Today is a day of great joy for you. We should not speak of bloody matters, but this palace has thought it over. The Su family's siblings have always been deeply attached. Your father and younger brother died one after another, yet you can still smile. It shows how strong your heart is. So this palace thought that you would surely be able to accept the news of your elder brother's tragic death as well? What do you mean? The smile vanished from Su Qingyan's face. Luan, speak clearly. What happened to my elder brother? What happened to him? Her voice gradually rose to a shriek. What else could have happened? I laughed coldly. He simply encountered mountain bandits while on his way to offer incense. He died even more miserably than my parents did back then. I stepped closer to her. He did not have to die, but he willingly chose death for your sake. Isn't that the best kind of brother-sister bond? Stepping on your elder brother's corpse to become a consort. Can you really still smile? Su Qingyan's face turned deathly white. She opened her mouth to speak, but suddenly her brows furrowed tightly and she clutched her lower abdomen. It hurt. It hurt so much I could not help looking down. The lotus-colored skirt was already soaked red with blood exactly as mine had been in my previous life. She felt the child leaving her body bit by bit. The pain was worse than having one's heart torn out. In the distance came the sound of gongs and bells announcing the emperor's arrival. I sighed and began my own performance, clutching my own belly. It hurts so much. Li Zhen rushed in. He did not even glance at Su Qingyan but pulled me tightly into his arms. Wanwan, what's wrong? Quickly summon the imperial physicians. Quickly. I leaned against Li Zhen's chest and watched Su Qingyan not far away lose so much blood that her face held not a trace of color. She opened her mouth as if wanting to speak, but my palace maid knelt first. Your Majesty, Her Highness is truly pitiful. Today she brought chicken soup to visit Beauty Su, intending to persuade her to be magnanimous and not resent your Majesty because of her father and elder brother. Yet not only did she show no gratitude, she even pushed Her Highness. Your Majesty, Our Lady is truly innocent. Hongtu's acting was superb. It had not been wasted on all the rewards she had received from me over the days. Li Zhen's fury erupted. He roared at Su Qingyan, vicious woman. Someone like you does not deserve to give birth to an imperial prince. With those words, none of the imperial physicians dared continue treating her. For the past several days my enemies had died miserably one after another. I had been so overjoyed that I had barely slept at night. This time I could finally sleep soundly. I leaned against Li Zhen's chest and slowly closed my eyes. Before I drifted off, I vaguely saw panic filling his eyes. The imperial physicians bustled about without rest. When I finally woke, Li Zhen had been sitting by my bed for who knew how long. Stubble covered his chin and his whole person looked haggard. Seeing me awake, he immediately pulled me into a tight embrace. Wanwan, you're awake. You're finally awake. Hongtu dropped to her knees with a thud. Heaven has blessed us. Her Highness has finally woken. Thankfully there is nothing serious, only that the fetal signs were slightly unstable. The Imperial Prince is healthy and will surely be born safely. The people in the Imperial Medical Bureau were all shrewd. I had fainted for no reason, and the Emperor was frantic with worry. They could hardly say I had simply fallen asleep. So they could only claim the fetal signs were unstable and that careful nursing was required. As for Su Qingyan, Hongtu's eyes were filled with glee. That vicious woman had lost too much blood before anyone could save her and died. Li Zhen could not help sighing. She had no blessing. Although I was angry, I had only intended to let the physicians treat her first before dealing with her. But she had no fortune to give birth to an imperial son. In the end her bleeding would not stop and she died from blood loss. So this was retribution? Cause and effect from the previous life repaid in this one. I looked at the Emperor before me and fell into thought. When would his retribution finally arrive? Several months later, I gave birth to a pair of dragon and phoenix twins. A dragon and phoenix birth was an auspicious omen. Li Zhen was overjoyed. He named me Empress and promoted my elder brother to first rank. Even the child still in my sister-in-law's womb, the imperial physicians had diagnosed it as a daughter. Li Zhen bestowed upon her the title of County Princess, noble beyond compare. My entire family lived in wealth and peace. Only Li Zhen gradually grew melancholy. When my son and daughter turned 3, the harem still had no other consorts who had given birth to heirs. Li Zhen had the imperial physicians take his pulse again and again, and even sent people across the martial world to find miracle doctors. Later he really did find a divine doctor. After taking Li Zhen's pulse, the doctor said, "He has taken the child-ending pill. He will never be able to have more children in this lifetime." Hongtu knelt again. Your Majesty, Your Highness, that year in Beauty Su's room, besides the aphrodisiac, we also found several medicinal pills. But the Imperial Medical Bureau could not identify them, so the matter was set aside. Now that I think about it, they must have been the child-ending pills she gave Your Majesty. I could not help exclaiming, How could Sister Su have done something so audacious? Hong Tu sighed. Your Highness is still too kind-hearted. The Su family had committed so many evil deeds. In the end, only Su Qingyan remained. She had been pregnant with the imperial heir and naturally developed the idea of giving the emperor the child-ending pill. It was not strange at all. Later, after the imperial prince was born, only 2 imperial sons remained in the palace. Who among them did not covet the power of the imperial family? Even if it were discovered, so what? Outside of Su Qingyan, the Su family had no one left to take the blame. They were already dead. Su Qingyan already had a precedent of using aphrodisiacs. Adding the child-ending pill now made perfect sense. Li Zhen flew into a rage and ordered the graves dug up and the corpses exhumed, then thrown to wild dogs to be devoured. The entire family neat and tidy died without intact corpses. Truly satisfying. After learning he could never sire another heir, Li Zhen's temperament changed drastically. He no longer doted solely on me as before. Refusing to accept fate, he began favoring the various consorts in the harem one after another. But years passed, and still no one in the harem became pregnant. Rumors gradually spread both inside and outside the palace. Someone said there was a great master named Dan He, who could refine pills that would restore virility to an impotent man. Li Zhen, desperate, invited the man into the inner palace and had him refine pills, day and night. Who would have guessed that all those pills contained deadly toxins? When my son and daughter turned 8, Li Zhen, having taken too many pills, fell gravely ill and could not rise. He did not die immediately. The imperial physicians used the best medicines to keep him alive, but the poison in his body erupted fully, causing him endless agony day and night, as if 10,000 arrows were piercing his heart. He could no longer endure it. He had become as thin as a dried stick. Before he died, he suddenly remembered old matters. He clutched my hand, trembling, and said he wished he had truly been only the son of a wealthy merchant. How carefree we had been boating on the lake together. I smiled gently. If you had truly been only the son of a wealthy merchant and not the emperor, you would never have been content. He froze. I continued. But your wish, I have never gone against it. Since you cannot fulfill it yourself, let my Jinger fulfill it in your place. Li Jing, my son, was also the only imperial prince of this dynasty. Li Zhen, have your eyes gone bad? All these years and you never noticed that Jinger does not resemble you at all. Instead, he bears a striking resemblance to Prince Su, the man you hated to the marrow of your bones. Li Zhen's eyes widened. I smiled with boundless delight. That month I returned home. Guess whether I went anywhere besides the Lu residence? Prince Su had been under house arrest, but with a simple disguise he could still enter the prince's mansion. I went to see him once. Leaving other matters aside, Prince Su truly had been the most handsome prince of the dynasty. Having him help me conceive a child benefited both sides. He hated Li Zhen and naturally agreed to muddy the imperial bloodline. Even if he died, so what? Many years later his own son would ascend the throne as emperor. He would not feel he had lost. As for me, I only wanted a child who was not Li Zhen's. Prince Su was the perfect choice, handsome, and the man Li Zhen hated most. After all, Prince Su was already dead. Jinger and Yeer would be children of my own alone. Li Zhen spat out a mouthful of blood when he heard. Perhaps he too was about to be provoked to death by me. Luan, have you never loved me in this entire lifetime? I could not help shaking my head. Love you? Are you even worthy? He spat another mouthful of blood. Looking at the bright yellow bed curtains, he closed his eyes, then suddenly began laughing uncontrollably. I remember now. Luan, you do not love me. You love Shen Qinghe, don't you? Oh, is he living a second life as well? Even better. At death's door, and you are still obsessed with who loved whom. Since you are about to die, why not think about how to beg me instead? Your imperial mausoleum has already been built, but it cannot escape wind and rain. If the mausoleum floods, your corpse will be left exposed in the wilderness. Luan, how can you be so vicious? Li Zhen's eyes were bloodshot, burning with rage he could not express, but I was no longer afraid of him. My elder brother was the Grand Chancellor, my daughter was a princess of the court, and my son would ascend the throne as emperor. My good fortune still lies ahead. At last he died, eyes wide open, unable to close them. Before his spirit tablet I had to work hard just to squeeze out a few tears. I was too happy. Even crying had become difficult. Afterward the new emperor ascended the throne and honored me as Empress Dowager. Since the new emperor was still young, I took charge of the government from behind the curtain as Empress Dowager. The power of the imperial family had finally fallen into my hands. As for Li Zhen in the imperial mausoleum, I had already secretly swapped his corpse long ago. His body was left exposed in the wilderness to be devoured by wild dogs. Truly satisfying. At this point, every one of my enemies had died, one after another. I held supreme power and enjoyed unmatched honor for 10,000 generations.